Hey, what's up, everybody? This is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we are talking about the woman in the house across the street from the girl in the window. Boom, got it. All right. It is a show on Netflix, which caught me off guard because I thought it was going to be a movie, but it's a show on Netflix that came out a couple of weeks ago. At the time of this recording, we are going to go into territory for this show and potentially the movie called The Woman in the Window as well, because I don't think we can talk about this without talking about that one.
Also,
So,
Rear Window.
also Rear Window. Thank you. We have done a discussion, not on Rear Window specifically, but on the movie version of this show that we were talking about.
It's called The
whatever.
Woman in the Window, starring Amy Adams.
Thank you. The one that came out last year, or maybe it was 2 years. I think it was last year. What is time?
It was not that long ago.
Yeah, right? Regardless, make sure that if you don't want to be spoiled, you go and check out the television show and or that movie that we're and or Rear Window, Alfred Hitchcock, and then come back and join us for the discussion. But you've been warned. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. Part of the confusion with my experience going into this, was because of the fact that we've watched Woman in the Window with Amy Adams. And I didn't know. So one, I thought this was going to be, I thought this was like a comedic take on it or something, or it was going to be. And it's quirky, but it's still pretty serious. And so, and it's also very similar. So I guess it kind of caught me off guard because the movie that we saw, like you said, it wasn't that long ago. So it felt kind of weird to me that Netflix was making a television show version of a movie that was something that they produced, and it wasn't even like, it hasn't even been like 2 years.
Right. So my thing is, like, I knew that it would I knew that it was related to The Woman in the Window, obviously, because of the wording, of course. And then, like, that was clearly inspired by Hitchcock and specifically the movie Rear Window. So when I was watching the show, I was thinking that, like, maybe it's just going to be another movie or another series story based on Rear Window. But I feel like it's more of a show based off of a movie based off of a movie.
Yes.
And so it's kind of more of a kind of like a not really a satire, but like it's kind of poking fun at The Woman in the Window, the movie that Amy Adams is in, because it's very similar to that. It's almost like not identical, but it's very, very similar to that. And The Woman in the Window is not as similar to Rear Window as most people would think. It really isn't. It's quite different. So this one is definitely like more easily paralleled against The Woman in the Window. And I don't know what it's trying to be. I don't know if it's trying to be a comedy or a rom-com or just a rom or a scary.
Just a rom?
Is it suspenseful? Because it does all of that in like different parts of the show. And like I've only seen 4 episodes so far. And like I'm interested, but I still don't really know what the genre is. It's definitely like mystery, like a murder mystery kind of thing. Or is it? I don't know, because we don't even know if, you know, she's dead or not. So just like Woman in the Window, like, is she dead? Is she dead? We don't know.
Right.
But the premise is basically the same.
Yeah, and when I was watching this, I was obviously there's a lot of similar beats, right? Like you mentioned how this is more similar to Woman in the Window than Woman in the Window is to Rear Window, and it's like it's in a lot of the details. For instance, like this woman, her daughter was in an accident, which is the same thing that happened in Woman in the Window, and then she became an alcoholic because of it and was mixing pills. Same thing as Woman in the Window. This show also I mean, and this was one thing that caught me off guard. Her husband is also a brown man, just like the husband in Woman in the Window. So there's all these other elements that are are basically the same thing, but then there are slight differences. Like, for instance, the accident that happened didn't come from them all being in the car together and then the husband died and then the daughter died. Right now we don't even know if the husband is dead. It seems like he's alive, but we remember from the Woman in the Window, she was talking to her husband on the phone and we found out that he was dead. So he could still be dead. The show could be still doing something with that. But the way the daughter died was, from what it sounds like, was from a serial killer killing her from gross negligence on the part of everyone that worked in that prison, which is just crazy. I don't even understand I don't understand why, if it is Bring Your Daughter to Work Day, I don't see why you bring her to you interviewing a serial killer. That doesn't even seem smart, which makes me think it's a satire, right? Because that's just so ridiculous. No parent in their right mind would actually think that's a good idea. Even if one parent did, not there's no way both are like, yeah, take our 9-year-old daughter to be across the room from you while you talk to a serial killer that's eating people.
And then let's just leave her in there while we go outside and have a conversation. I was legit laughing. I was like, this is funny. This is funny. But then, like, there were just very few moments of that, and I feel like it just wasn't enough. Like, there was some other stuff, like, there was, like, a stack of art books, and they all basically they all basically looked the same.
You can do art, too. You can do art also.
Yeah, exactly. So there's, like, little weird stuff like that, but I feel like there's just not enough of it, and it's, like, way too serious. It's kind of like, it's almost like, like Mel Brooks movies. I feel like it has to be closer to Mel Brooks kind of style to be funny. And they have moments like that, but not nearly enough.
Yeah, and like that's what I was saying when we opened. Like, it just really confused me because of the title. I thought it was going to be more of a satirical take on it, and like even when you watch the trailer, it seems like it's going to do that. But then there's some legit like kind of tense or emotional moments where you're kind of like, I'm not really laughing, and then there's the whole mystery that gets you involved, and like the way she dies is kind of bloody. I mean, she's bleeding from her neck when she dies, and when they show people die, it's kind of messed up. And I think the last episode we watched, episode 4, the guy pushes his pregnant wife into the river and she drowns. And that was a pregnant woman that you just killed on screen. Like, there's some really dark moments that happen, but then you'll have the main character talking about how if you don't risk anything, then you risk everything. And if you risk everything, then you risk nothing. And if you risk nothing, you risk everything. And then just saying it over and over again. And I remember watching it and being like, what is this show doing?
Yeah, it even starts off weird because she starts speaking in a British accent. And then she acknowledges that she's not actually British. And so her accent switches to American. And so that makes you think, like, it's supposed to be a comedy. But then, like, there's no more funny moments after that. And then you're like, what am I watching? I mean, that aside, like, it not really, like, falling into... I think it's like it's not committed to a genre, I think.
Right.
But, like, if you put that aside, I still think the story itself is interesting because I am, like, really wondering what's going on. And I am really wondering, like, what's going to happen to her? What's going to happen to the neighbor? Like, did Lisa really die? Or did she imagine that? And then there's this whole thing with, like, did the wife actually get murdered? Like, another lady, did she get murdered by her husband, or was that really an accident? And then there was the t-shirt. So there's all this stuff, and it's like, what is the truth? And you really want to know, and she wants to know. Our main character wants to know. And I think that it sticking to her point of view is interesting, because I feel like we're going to, like, have this mystery revealed together.
Yeah, one cool thing that the show did do, because the fact is that I forget, is her name Sloane? I forget the main character's name, but um, she is an unreliable narrator. I mean, and that's part of the reason why I think they do that whole thing with the British accent at the beginning. It's like she's somebody that lies or pretends or whatever. And in one of the episodes, it shows you, like we just talked about it or just mentioned it, like it shows the husband killing the pregnant wife, but then it cuts to our main character as if that's what she imagined happened. So it's not really clear if the filmmakers were showing us something that no one else is aware of, like they normally do in movies and television shows, or if this was just a fabrication of what this main character believes could have happened and what it would have looked like. And they do that again when they show the teacher being pushed off the top of the lighthouse. It's not necessarily clear if that's what actually happened or if this is just what our main character is imagining as what happened. So that element has me really interested. And even like with the woman in the window, that was the intrigue behind that, right? Was that this woman that she swears she saw die, everyone was saying was still alive, and like the husband and everybody was just saying like there was nothing wrong. And then this new woman shows up, and it's like, wait, that's not the woman that I saw. That's not the actual wife. And so there's this other mystery. And the thing about that movie is that, like we already said, spoilers, but it turned out to be the kid who was doing everything and who was the problem. But it doesn't seem like this show is going to be able to go the same way because the kid in this show is like 9 years old. So unless it gets really ridiculous, the likelihood that this little girl killed anybody is very small. But it could happen. So I don't know. But it at least right off the bat tells me that this show will have a different ending and go in a different direction at some point than what the original movie that we saw did.
It definitely already is because at the end, you watched episode 4, right?
Yeah.
At the end of episode 4, we're introduced to a brand new character. That throws a whole other thing into the mix. So I haven't seen past episode 4, but I have a feeling that she's going to be exploring this whole new range of possibilities of that person being the murderer, and she's going to have different imaginations for that. And I think it's going to be an interesting journey to her figuring out like what actually happened, like what is actually the truth. So I think that's why I feel like it's an interesting show, is because you just don't really know what's going to happen, and it doesn't feel predictable.
True.
And I think that's why it's so interesting, even though it just doesn't have a consistent like tone. Or it does, but it's weird.
Yeah, it's weird and it can feel confusing.
Yeah.
But like one of the other elements that popped up was that makes me think that someone did actually die. So we're constantly pulled in this tug of war between we think the husband did it versus we don't think the husband did it. But like I like the fact that the show doesn't pretend like the audience doesn't have an idea of what's going on. Like it knows that we're drawing our own conclusions, right? So it doesn't wait until like episode 8 or something for them to like finally suspect the husband. She suspects the husband at the end of episode 2 or 3 or something. But it's pretty soon. And then that's when she starts going into that. But it's interesting to me that we keep having these moments where we go back and forth with doubting whether or not he is guilty or if he isn't. But when they said that he was, that the girlfriend had left, when our main character is going to go on a retreat and she's going to go take a plane, she finds out that they don't actually fly to the place or to the West Coast, which is where he said
where
that
Seattle
she went.
Is.
Yeah, where Seattle is. Yeah, it's in the West Coast. So you don't fly there. That's in the West Coast. It's like, oh my God, this show. So, yeah. And so in that moment, it's clear that he lied, right? So then you think, oh, well, he's clearly guilty. And then you think that he's getting rid of a body, and it turns out, no, he's going and doing a ventriloquist dummy show. And then he gives a very good like, I don't know if it's a performance or very good just statement about how he's in grief and how he's using this to cope and everything else like that. And then it's like, okay, well, now he seems like he's not guilty. So I do like the push and pull that the show is doing. And like you said, now we have this new character that pops up, and we have to figure out what his relationship is to everything, because it's clear that he was at least cheating, or he was with the guy's girlfriend at some point. Mm-hmm. So and I'm sure there's going to be other twists and turns along the way. And I think I'm like more intrigued about seeing where this goes. But like you, I just feel there are times where I'm watching and I just feel it feels very odd. Like, even though I'm enjoying myself, I start feeling like, what is happening here?
I just don't know how I'm supposed to feel. Like something happens and I'm like, did I miss a joke? I feel like I'm missing a joke like the entire time. And then like there's things that happen where it's supposed to be a joke. Like, it's really clear that it's a joke. Like, the tombstone says something in the first scene and then it changes in another scene. And I'm like, is that supposed to be a joke? I don't know, because I don't think it's funny, but I don't know why that's happening. Maybe it has something to do with her mental state, like, but then, like, that's not a joke. So I'm like, how am I supposed to feel?
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I had forgotten that I'd written that down, that I wanted to talk about that. But yeah, they make a point of showing you the grave both times that we've seen her go to the grave so far, and both times it says something different. And so, because of the fact that it says something different, that led me to have one of two beliefs: either she is imagining like her daughter's grave and isn't actually there, or she's going to random children's graves or random graves and praying over them or talking to them. Both are very, very odd, and it makes me wonder if there's more to her daughter's death than we know. And her husband is played by Michael Ealy, who is another pretty famous actor. So I don't doubt that he's going to show up more often, show up more than just in the flashbacks. Assuming he's still alive, which we have every reason to believe he is still alive. I'm sure we'll see him again, and I'll be curious what his role is going to be when he comes into the story.
Yeah, and like that's just very, like, you really don't know what's real, because she isn't a reliable narrator. That's the one. Yeah. So because of that, like, what if her daughter isn't dead? What if her husband is the one that died? Or, because his account didn't change.
What if she was never with him in the first place and never had a daughter?
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. But who's to say? I mean, there's, like, hints and stuff. Like, neighbors and her friend acknowledged that something had happened to her. But we just don't exactly know what the extent of that is. Because we can already... they've already shown us that what she sees and what she believes is true isn't necessarily true.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then one other thing that gets me about it was the same thing in The Woman in the Window, but these cops seem very bad at their jobs. And I get it. Like, you think that the woman was drunk, but then you're saying that, well, maybe you thought you saw blood. Like, the woman clearly did not intentionally make a false report. But even if the husband says that my wife is fine, she's just not home right now, any good cop is going to go and be like, well, where is your wife? Can we go talk to her? Give us a number. They're not going to just take the guy's word on it and be like, oh, okay, well, I guess because you said she's not here, I guess no one's murdered. Like, they're going to say, okay, well, if she's not murdered, produce her. Give us her number. Let us talk to her on the phone. You say she's at the airport. Let's go to the airport. Oh, she's already on a flight. Let's look at the flight logs, or let's check in with her coworkers, or let's look at a camera at the airport to see if we see her walking to a plane. And so the fact that that doesn't happen is just mind-boggling to me, because I'm just thinking to myself, it is not that hard to prove if this woman is still alive. You literally can show a camera image of her at an airport, or just even just have her talk on the phone, and it can be someone else's voice, whatever. But I just thought that that was a little strange. But the police in the movie, The Woman in the Window, were also equally as incompetent.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of the reason why that was happening in the series is one, because it's based off of that movie.
Yeah.
And then that movie being based off of Rear Window slash Hitchcock movies, and a reminder for everyone that one of Hitchcock's themes is stupid cops. So it's kind of like because I know where it came from, and I know like the reasoning behind it, it doesn't bother me, because like I know how it got there. But then it also, like, it does one of those things where, like, stupid things happen, so it helps move the story along, right? So
Right.
it's kind of like one of those things for me. I didn't, like, I like the whole time I was just thinking, oh, it's Stupid Cops, because it's based off of a movie, off of another movie, so.
Where they were stupid cops.
Yeah.
Where stupid cops is a theme. Right. All right. Well, that's basically everything from me. I am overall enjoying myself. It's not necessarily something that I would absolutely just rush to recommend to other people to watch. And out of the two things that we decided to watch for the purposes of our stream, I like the other thing we watched more than this, but I am at least willing to see this through to the end, because I am engaged with the mystery, and I do want to know what happens and see how they bring it all together.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same. I'm not going to tell people to watch it, but now that I have started watching it, I want to see it through and figure out what happens, or what happened, and what the truth is.
For sure. Is there any other big points you wanted to bring up before we get out of here?
No. I think I don't know. I think one thing that I picked up right away is at the very, very beginning, was that the daughter was probably not real, because we never see her, and two, it just seems like it goes along with the whole Woman in the Window
Right.
theme. So there was that, and I'm kind of wondering if you know that guy that's just always fixing her mailbox.
Yeah.
I don't get that. I'm like, is he real?
Oh, other people were interacting with him, so I think that he's real. But yeah, there's something like that whole mailbox thing was very off to me too. It's like, why is it taking you so long to fix a mailbox? It's not. That's a day project, right?
Yeah.
Maybe... They also are making a habit, or they're making a point of showing that the mail is getting delivered to the wrong address. Like, that's one of those things where you initially see it and it feels innocuous, but I feel like it's there for a reason. So that's probably going to be something that comes back later. I imagined that the guy that's working on the mailbox was similar to the guy that was helping Amy Adams in her home in The Woman in the Window. I thought that they were... I figured he was like that representation of that character, and they would feel like similar roles because he's a handyman. But I don't understand why it is. He seems pretty weird. And two, I don't understand, why he's spending so much time trying to fix that mailbox.
Yes, and apparently he's not very bright too, because he thinks that a raccoon can die from falling off of the roof of a house. See, is it funny or not? I don't know. Is it a comedy? Is it? I don't know.
The thing is, I'm laughing more about us talking about it than I was laughing while watching it. I don't think I laughed that much while watching it. I think I scratched my head more than laughed while watching it. But talking about it, in hindsight, it is pretty funny.
It's funny, yeah. Yeah. I think the only time I like actually laughed is the bring your daughter to work day. And then the next thing was that he like that she was explaining was that the dad was like an FBI agent in the like mental health
Hmm.
uh thing for like serial killers. And like after she said that, I was laughing so hard because I was like, "What? Why would you bring your daughter to work?" And then they're like in prison. I'm like, this is not.
This is so dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe that's intentional. I did laugh at one other part, and I don't think it was supposed to be funny, but it felt funny because it was insensitive. And it was when that one woman cop was talking about how she worked the murderous Mike case or whatever, the guy that ate people, right? And she was like almost shot him, but then she's talking to the main character, and she's like talking about how she wished that she had shot the guy back then. And she's been thought and she explains why she feels that way, but the way she ends what she's saying, she says, and then I felt that way until the day that he ate your daughter. And I'm like, that's not what someone says to somebody who lost their daughter. You're not going to bring up, you're going to say the day that your daughter died, the day that your daughter was murdered. They're not going to say until that day he ate your daughter. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what is going on? That is completely insensitive.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what I wasn't sure if I was supposed to laugh, but it felt so ridiculous that I
Yeah.
couldn't help but laugh.
Definitely. I kind of have a little theory about them about the handyman. What if they live in like a community where everyone has Alzheimer's and there's
Oh,
like people planted in there to be like their nannies to help them go through this like role play thing so that they can like actually live in the community.
that sounds like a much crazier movie than I think we're going to get. But I like
Well,
where your
we'll
head's at.
see. We'll
Yeah,
see.
we will see. All right, but anything else? You good?
No, I'm good.
So, guys, if you guys want to check us out and hear us talk more offline, it's twitch.tv/C3Films. That's where we do more discussions, usually after we finish up on our YouTube segment there. And we'll discuss more about this. We'll see where this goes, and we'll see how right or wrong Cheryl and I are. But what did you guys think about the woman in the house across the street from the girl in the window? Did you enjoy it? Have you seen Woman in the Window and Rear Window? A lot of windows. And which did you like the most? And did you enjoy them all? What have you thought about it? Comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, if you could please give us a like, share, subscribe. It really does help the channel out. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been.
You all better say Rear Window's the best. I've been Cheryl. We'll see you all next time.